All right, we're live. Welcome to another episode of the WP Crowd. Today we are doing kind of an interesting tutorial slash beginner series, or a little series, and we're starting out today. And today we're talking about CPTs, or custom post types. Before we get into things, let's do some introductions, starting at my left with Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh. What am I supposed to say?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My name is Josh Pollock. I'm from Caldera WP, and you can follow me on Twitter at Josh412.
Cool. Matt.
There we go. I'm Matt. I'm with WordPress and GiveWP.com, and I love Roy Sivan with a passion.
Thank you. That was very flattering.
My
I
pleasure.
don't know what to say. I'm speechless now.
That was the plan.
Michal?
I am Michel Luma from Montreal, developer. You can find me at Isotrope. And I also really don't like it when people talk about buying themes that include custom post types baked in.
I'm sorry if you can't understand him. We don't have subtitles, but we're working on it. Rachel, your turn.
Hey guys, I'm Rachel Carden. I work at the University of Alabama. You can find me at Bama Designer on Twitter and also at wpcampus.org.
WP Campus. All right. All right, so today we're talking about CPTs. I say CPT, someone who might not know what we're talking about. It's a custom post type. Before we get into how to create them and what they're good for, I think it'd be really good just to, on a really high level, define them. And I think let's go one step further. And if one of you wants to tackle the definition of a post type in general versus a custom post type, that would probably be a good starting point for the people who are just getting into things. Josh, I'm going to pick on you. You're going to define out what a post type is.
You're not picking on me. I raised my hand.
Okay. Josh, what is a post type?
Nobody can see your hand.
So,
Stop screen, Josh.
hi, Matt. Okay, so I like to think about post types as boxes, or even more generally, content types, right? So WordPress has a bunch of different content types. It has post types, users, taxonomies, like categories and tags, and comments, right? These are all different places in the database where we put things. And so post types are posts, pages, revisions, attachments. These are post types that come with WordPress, and they are all in the database in the same place. They all have the same capabilities, but they are labeled as being a post type. So what makes a post different from a page? In the database where it says post type, it says post or page. And so that's the technical difference. And what that means is that there are different boxes to put your content. It would be, WooCommerce is the classic example of making use of a custom post type. It adds a custom post type called product. And so that way, instead of making a post called red shirt, you have a product called red shirt. So it's just it's a container, it's a category, it's a different place to put it, but then you can query differently on it. That way you don't see red shirt in your blog, you see it in your products.
It's a good definition. So I think that's a good assessment. So it's basically a way to manage your content on the website and differentiate. So custom post types, I guess, are what? I'm going to pick on Matt for this one. So custom post types, what are they?
Josh actually, right in the middle of everything he said, he gave that little nugget. He said basically WordPress out of the box comes with attachments and posts and pages, even users, I believe, are, actually no, they're not. But attachments, posts, and pages are all post types, and then custom post types are any kind of content that you create custom besides those ones. So I mean, for beginners, there's a lot of technical ways you could talk about custom post types, but when they're just first trying to get to understand it, I think just saying it's a type of content that's not a post or a page or an attachment. But
Okay.
even saying not an attachment sometimes gets them confused, but not a post or a page.
Michelle, you do a lot of freelance work. So when do you find it useful to actually create a custom post type versus just dealing with the existing post types that you might have already?
The second it's not a page or an article. Like,
well, what if they're not using they don't need a blog, for example? Would you repurpose posts since that's usually the
no.
blog?
I mean, let's be honest. Setting up a custom post type takes a whole 5 minutes, if that. I like to, because any type of content can be any type of content. I just like to make it what it is. In the sense that I don't see, if I'm working, let's say, with books, I'm not going to repurpose posts as books. I'm just going to make books. Anything that is not already what it's supposed to be, I tend to just make a custom post type. It just also makes it easier for all sorts of stuff, like how the template hierarchy automatically jumps in, how it's easy. I tend to use ACF a lot, so it's super easy to switch based on post type. Yeah, so I've rarely worked on projects where I didn't have custom post types.
Okay, so the next question that we got was once you've set up custom post types, and we're going to get into creating custom post types in a little bit and the kind of different methods you could take and some of the other plugins that help you along that process. But let's talk about using them for a second. What are some of the best methods you guys have found or used, I guess, use custom post types? Like, what are you guys using it for, and how are you guys implementing it into your theme or plugin or something like that? Anyone?
I'm gonna say something that's gonna get a lot of flack for, but
Do it anyway. Do it anyway.
If it's for a specific theme, a specific customer, I tend to get pre-designed, chop up, set it up. So I'll start with underscores, and chances are I might put it in a plugin, but I might just stick it right into the theme itself, which is a big no-no, I know, but yeah. I thought I'd hear more boos than that, but
the 3 people watching right now are definitely booing you.
Yeah, I know. I can hear them all the way from.
So just to loop back to what Michelle's talking about, when you're defining out in code a custom post type, it's common good practice to put it into a plugin, to actually create a plugin. And I know that's kind of, if you don't know what custom post types are, to take the one step to actually learn the code to create them, and then to take another step into let's create my own plugin for it, is another big leap, which is why there's...
It's not really a step to make a plugin, it's one line.
Yeah, and just so you have it lying around, and just to reuse it from somewhere else, and you're all set to go.
But okay, so let's say you created your plugin for the custom post type. It's better practice, though, I think, and Michelle, you can feel free to argue against me here. It is good practice to put it into a plugin because...
Definitely. No, I agree. For me, the main thing is when it comes to the templates that I still wonder where to stick them. If I put it in a plugin, then I'm going to feel like I should put some templates in the plugin that can be easily overridden, sort of like child theme style, in the theme itself. And I'm sure people have better suggestions for that, but it's just like, I know it's a separation of functionality from the view, but without the view, they're just sort of lying there doing nothing.
But the difference is that if your theme becomes disabled or you disable your theme for troubleshooting, then you've lost your custom post type, which would have worked just fine, say, in 2015.
That's bad practice. Don't follow my example, anyone, at all.
I totally get it though, because at the end of the day, it's all about usability. You know, like what does this client need right now? Do they like? And what you're saying, what I hear you saying is it's a slippery slope. As soon as it goes into a plugin, then there's 25 other things that I could also do to make this a lot more usable and portable for this client. But maybe that's not in scope and whatnot. So there is definitely real-world considerations to put in place or to think about. But yeah.
I think one thing also to point out is that when you create a custom post type, the templating for it is done just as easily as any other post type. So, for example, you have page.php for pages. Single.php actually applies to all single non-page post types. And then single dash post type slug, so the actual URL that's associated with a post type, is the template for that individual post type's template. So like the template for, let's say, a custom post type called product would be single dash product.php. And I think that's the way WooCommerce has it set up, although they do a lot of other tricky hook, filter, action goodness to set up their templates. So let's talk a little bit about, let's get into how you actually create them. So we talked about code, but let's say we're talking to someone who's just getting into custom post types. They realize that there's actually a need that they want to separate out a certain part of data content from the existing. What are some plugins you guys use? I know, Michal and I have already talked about this, and we tend to not use plugins. We tend to just create our own, or I guess just put them in the theme. Weird. But so Josh is on, and I know, Josh, you've been focusing and you put some attention on the pods framework, and you have pods, and then you've talked about CPT UI. So why don't you get into that a little bit? What do those plugins do, and what are the differences between the two when you're just wanting to create custom post types?
Okay, so Pods is a complete framework for custom content types. So that includes creating custom post types, creating a UI, and for your custom fields. But also pods can be users, they can be taxonomies, they can be comments, they can be a custom table that exists outside of the regular WordPress post types. So, and it also has like a front-end templating system. It creates the back-end UI. So it's a really great complete solution when you need all of those things. When you're like, oh, I'm going to add a books custom post type, and I need to have a custom field for who's the author, and I need that to be related to another custom post type for authors, so they can have like a biography, and I can say like The Hobbit, and then select author as J.R.R. Tolkien, and then I can query and get all of the books by that. So Pods is a really complete solution for these types of WordPress as a content management system. But I guess you mentioned custom post type UI, which is my go-to when Pods is too much, right? If you just need to register some custom post types using the UI, custom post type UI for registering custom post types and custom taxonomies is really wonderful because it just does that. It doesn't give you templating tools. It doesn't give you custom field UI, that sort of stuff.
Are those both available in the WordPress repo, or
yes.
Are they?
They're both free plugins. Pods is a free project that's sponsored by Automatic and the generosity of donors to us. And custom post type UI is built by Web Dev Studios. But yeah, they're both free on WordPress.org.
Do you guys, the rest of you guys, do you guys use any other plugins to help manage custom post types?
I find that GenerateWP.com can be like a good sort of starting point. It's a website that it's like a wizard that guides you through register post type step by step. Just like makes it for you. There's some nice stuff like reminding you that using a text domain is not a bad practice. And what it does is just creates the code that you can then stick into your plugin, or when you're starting out your functions.php or something like that. So it's like you're doing it the way that WordPress says to do it in the codex. Not that it's the only way, and definitely not necessarily the best one, but actually there's a bunch of other stuff on Generate WP that sort of, I found it was a good way to actually learn some of these functions, just to see like what really changes what.
Okay. But Josh, you're saying with pods, it's a good like foundation. If someone doesn't want to get into the code, but I get this a lot sometimes from people who they want a new section on their website, whether it's news, but they don't want to associate it with the blog. So with pods, they're able to create a CPT for, let's say, news, and then also dive into the templating for it.
Yeah, so Pods has an integrated templating tool. So you can, so by default, WordPress, one of the reasons why we use custom post types is that we get all that cool stuff that WordPress gives us for free, right? You write a post, and then there's just magically a URL on your website. You write, like, Matt loves Roy is your post slug, and then you have your site /Matt/Roy. Matt loves Roy. It's not just like a magical URL thing that happens. You don't have to like set that up in an HD access or in a router or something like that. So you get that with post types too. Like you have a book post type, and then you have a book called How Much Matt Loves Roy, and that's just their books. And then you can have an archive. Pods lets you turn that on and off. So you go to /books and list out all your books. And you see The Hobbit and your various Star Wars expanded universe novels that you would be wanting to discuss. So yeah, it's all there. And then if you have custom fields, right? So WordPress doesn't like stick your custom fields into your theme. So Pods has a templating tool that helps you get those custom fields associated with those post types out into your theme.
Through code or in the back end while you're editing your posts?
In the back end.
Okay.
So it's actually a separate editor where you do like magic tags. So it's all HTML and CSS, and then magic tags to say, like, okay, put the author here, put the permalink to the image here, that sort of thing.
So it's kind of like Types, I think, is the other plugin that's really popular. I've never played around with it, but I know a lot of people love WP Types. I think it also offers a templating kind of solution on the back end.
That's Views. So
Types and Views, yep.
Sorry, Matt. Go.
Josh gets angry when you say that Pods is like Types and Views.
Josh has never used Types and Views. He's aware of the comparison. This is like I've used Advanced Custom Fields like twice in my life. I don't have anything wrong with it. I've just never used it because, like the whole Pods thing.
Yeah.
I have this habit. Like, I've used Gravity Forms twice. Seemed nice at the time. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I'm the perpetual WordPress underdog, I think.
Just always using the thing that no one else uses, I get it.
No, building the thing. the cooler, better thing, which you should try. Like, what do I have to do to put you in a Pods or a Caldera Forms today, Roy? It's
with a low payment of $9.99, I can put you in this beautiful Caldera Forms.
It's free. It's responsive. It's got a drag and drop editor. But like, yeah, I don't know.
That's all I want in life.
I know. I'm getting off topic, but like, yeah, I'm the guy who's never used Types or ACF really. Like, I've legit never used Types. But Pods.
I've never used Types either or Views, so I'll give you that. I know a lot of people do use it, and I've heard both really good things and really bad things about it. So, to each their own, I guess. Rachel, since you have said nothing,
I've been lurking today.
I'm going to call on you.
Everything that I wanted to say, y'all say it before I could chime in, so, Go ahead, though.
You have a plugin called CPT Onomies. Want to explain what your wonderful plugin does?
It allows you to make taxonomies out of your custom post types. At the core, it's essentially post relationships, and so there are lots of different ways to do what my plugin does. But it also allows you to register custom post types. So I use it just to as a custom post type manager a lot of times. But then I can also, assign. Basically, I can assign custom post types to behave in the same manner that taxonomies behave, and which really comes in handy with a lot of stuff that I do. It grew out of a need for people directory. I make lots of people directories in higher education, and I wanted to have a people custom post type, and I wanted to have, excuse me, a department custom post type so that each department can have its own content and stuff like that. But then the ability to, say, tag people by the department they work in. And also the same with like buildings. I wanted each building that we have, we're a research university, so we have content about our buildings and their facilities and stuff like that. So then being able to tag the person by the building they work in, but also allow, we want the building to have information more than, say, a taxonomy can have. And that's kind of changing these days, now with taxonomy terms having metadata, but even so, I really want the building to behave more like a custom post type than to behave more like a taxonomy. But I want it to behave like a taxonomy when I'm working with my people. And so I make it probably sound more complex than I need it to be, but it's a fun little plugin, and I use it to register all my post types, and then I'm a big fan of advanced custom fields, and so I use it to throw in my custom fields and make all kinds of cool stuff. But I've been chit-chatting with people this morning about how they use custom post types, and a lot of folks basically kind of said the same thing. I think that advanced custom fields might be used a fair amount in higher ed.
Advanced custom fields?
Yeah, what did I say?
ACF, but that's not post type.
No, I'm just talking about custom fields, sorry. I think I have sick brain. But so yeah, CPT-onomies is a fun plugin that I like to use, and so if you ever want to check it out, go for it. But
also in the repo?
It's also in the repo. It's free. Has some documentation and stuff like that.
The one that I used that sounds familiar, or it sounds similar, is post to post. Is it similar to post to post?
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, like I said, it's functionality that there are lots of plugins that basically make the same thing. Because at the heart of it, it's a relationship that you're forming between two different post types.
Yep.
And so there are lots of different ways to do it. And I'm not even afraid to admit that I've used other ways to pretty much do what CPT-onomies does, and because in that particular project, in that moment in time, it was the better way to do it. And so
are you relating two posts from different post types together, or it's the whole post type relates to another post type?
It's the both. I mean,
So like in ACF, there's I don't mean to get into post meta too much here because it's not our conversation, but I just want to understand a little bit more. So ACF has a post relationship meta field that you can add in.
Yes.
Where if you're on a post, you can say, okay, I now want to link to another post or associate this post with another post, and it's CPT irrelevant. Like, does it matter what post type? Is it like that, or is it saying that, okay, this post type is the brother or whatever sibling of this other post type in all posts in each, I guess?
Yeah. So when you register your CPT-onomy, you're registering a post type to a post type. And so then when let's say you're on the edit screen for your particular, let's say I'm editing a person in my people custom post type, then you would have that meta box that you would see just like for taxonomies, where you go and you have a checklist and you check all the departments that person works in. And the difference being between, say, the way CPT-onomies works and then like just a post-to-post or a relationship, a general post relationship works, is that CPT-onomies, they're supposed to function like taxonomies do. So they have taxonomy archives, and they have they try to mix in with all the taxonomy functions, and they do all that. So it's just a little bit different way of doing it. So like I don't know what the other plugins that do post relationships, they may not have out of box the ability to have an archive page that shows, you know, all the people that work in this department taxonomy that I've made. So that's the difference. It's subtle, but so like I said, there's different use cases. So you may not need all that. You may not need this taxonomy functionality. You may just need a post relationship that you can pull up really easily on a page or something. And so, you know, there's different ways to go about it.
So what's some of the feedback you got today in your question? I saw you posted that question on Twitter. Any good feedback from that?
Oh, so some folks, basically I asked people what they did before custom post types, because I wasn't actually using WordPress before custom post types was implemented. I think I came in right afterwards. And so basically lots of template hacking, lots of category template hacking.
Definitely.
I responded and said, you know, I bet there was lots of creative taxonomy, you know, implementation, and then someone was like, well, that's assuming we had custom taxonomies too. So I mean, you have like the out-of-the-box taxonomies, and you're having to go to town. And someone said there was lots of custom PHP and MySQL nonsense, lots of serializing data into the options table. So people, I mean, get creative when you really need some functionality that doesn't really exist.
I was working for an agency right around the time 3.0 came out, where the custom post types became available, or creation of. Before that, we did a lot of category hacking and like category template hacking, and also there were definitely some times where we had to inject and actually created our own custom post types by mimicking a lot of the WordPress core code and modifying WordPress core and the database, which was horrible, but it was what was needed for that. So we were like, here's WordPress, don't ever update it, because it's not really WordPress anymore. It's now our Frankenstein version. But yeah, 3.0 and custom post types definitely, I don't know, a lot of people talk about it being the major transformation point from WordPress being a blog engine to being a real content management system. And I think that's very true. And it definitely evolved leaps and bounds when custom post types came out, because now you can really separate out your content and your data from one another.
Yeah, if you ever find yourself traveling back in time, pods existed before custom post types with custom table-based pods. So just in case if you're a time traveler developer. But also you could still use them now, which is kind of helpful in certain situations. Anyway.
If you're a time traveler developer, then what are we sitting here talking about custom post types for? We should be talking to the time traveler developer.
Sorry. I apologize.
That's the next podcast, is if you could go back in time and change one thing about WordPress, what would it be? And Josh would be like, already done. I created custom post types. Done.
They should just be called Josh post types.
Josh post types.
I'm sorry, I'll be quiet.
CPTs.
They're Pollock types.
Pollock types. Even better. Man, I don't want to get to too advanced stuff, but what's some cool stuff you guys have done with CPTs? WooCommerce being, like, I think one of the better large-scale examples, taking the CPT and making an e-commerce solution out of it. But how about you guys? I know you guys have all done client work, custom development for your jobs. What's some stuff that you guys have done with CPTs?
I've done a lot of making little news boxes for clients, like when they need to have at the bottom of the homepage or whatever, they want to have some unique content that they want to show up in a couple different places. I'll create a custom post type and then give them a short code that populates that post type anywhere they want, and they can just drop the short code at the bottom of a post or a page, and then those will show up for them, that kind of thing. But like you said, with WooCommerce and others, like that, e-commerce related things, including online donations, but they tend to have ways that the custom post types aren't just things that you see publicly, because custom post types don't have to be public only. They can also just be post types that you use in the back end. So, for example, EDD, WooCommerce, Give all has their transactional data that's stored as post types. And that's all for the back end. And then you don't have a root menu item for those post types. They're actually sub-menu items underneath the main one. So, and I'm sure that will be getting into the more advanced stuff. But like post types are not just limited to just a page. You can make them into little content pieces, things like that. And yeah.
Something cool that I built for someone here on campus was essentially like a mentoring management system. It was a mentoring program, and so they filled out an online form which put all their data into a custom post type and stored all their information in a post meta, and then I built this kind of UI for the management to go in, and there were all these fields and that they needed to kind of compare to basically assign mentors to mentees. So basically there was a mentor's custom post type and a mentee's custom post type, and they had different information, and so then this UI and the admin allowed them to kind of drag and drop and assign mentees to mentors using all this data, and so that was a lot of fun. Also built basically I worked on a access control request system where there was an online form you filled out because you needed access to a building or a specific room in a building, and then that fed into a custom post type, and then there were workflows for people to go in and approve things, and then in the end an email got sent off to people that controlled access. But that was also another kind of neat way to use it.
Cool. Well, I'm going to end the conversation here. I think we are planning on doing one or two more custom post type related podcasts in the next coming kind of weeks and months. We're probably going to do one which does focus a little bit more on the code, and one that really does focus on advanced uses of custom post types, really showing how things like Give and WooCommerce do the transactional stuff that Matt was talking about, where it's kind of a hidden post type, but you want to just store the data somewhere and have it. I think we might have Josh back on when we talk about post types and the REST API, because that's what he's known for. And I don't know anything about the API and post types, so we will definitely continue this conversation and get some more advanced conversations going. But for now, I think that was a good intro. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to go to the WPCrowd.com, ask your questions in the comments, and someone will answer. Thanks again, and see you guys next week.